today's thing. So remember last time we were doing the scheduling. I'll come back to the topic again later on, but let's first talk about something else today. Um, I think I've shared my courses with you to take a look at it, but past couple of weeks have been crazy busy, but I'm trying to go ahead and upload all the videos now. So you can take a look at the courses that I've already sent you, and do you get notification when I upload anything on YouTube? Did you guys subscribe to it or not on the channel? Okay, so go ahead and subscribe there. So every time I put it, you will get a notification saying there's a video on this course, and you can take a look at it. Okay, and today, first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and talk about the email services. If like say how to send an email. Have you done that, Abhinav, before? Like, have you heard of inbound email services or outbound email services, sending an email? Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're basically, there are two types of things. When we send an email to an external system, or when from the external system, we receive an email. So there are two categories of it. One is called as the outbound email messaging, and then there is called as the inbound email messaging. So we have outbound email messaging. It's called outbound email messaging is when we send the email, and inbound email messaging is basically when we receive an email. Now, what is the purpose here is, let's say a new record came, or new record is entered, and you wanted to not notify someone, or if the order has been shipped, you wanted to send an email to the external system letting them know that the order has been shipped and these are their tracking numbers, and then you can play and you can basically upload those tracking number on a website or something like that. That's basically you are sending an email after the order has been processed or something. And now we have inbound email messaging. Basically, when you receive an email from the external system, let's say you're getting every night, there is a job that basically runs, which kind of sends you all the entries of all the entries of all the customers who joined today, and then using those emails, you basically go ahead and create a record in your database. You can do those things with the inbound email messaging. So outbound is basically used to send an email to the external system using Apex. And in the outbound email messaging also, they are divided into two categories. One is called as the single email message system, and the other one is called as the mass email message. Now, the only difference between the single email message and the mass email is the single email can be used by the workflows, alerts, and notification, whereas the mass emails can only be used in the UI basically to send mass emails to the contacts or to the leads. Like if you have a bunch of people you want to send them to, you can go ahead and send those using a mass email. But whereas a single email, basically they are mostly used in sending like in workflows or alert and notification. That is what the single email messaging. You've already seen there when you send an email using a workflow, that is kind of an example of the single email messaging. And mass email is basically when you wanted to send emails to all your contacts or broadcasting. That's what it is. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and do an example where we're going to go ahead and write a class through which we're going to send an email. Okay, so let's go back to our Apex. So we go back here, and in this we're going to go ahead and create a new Apex class, and let's say we call it as the email class. And in this particular email class, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and send an email. Okay, so there is a method that I'm going to create here, public static void set single mail, So it's single email. We can say this is the method that I've created, and there is this class from which we're going to use this particular. We're going to construct this object here, which is called a single email message. We're going to go ahead and create the object here is equals to new of the same thing. So messaging is basically the class that provides the classes or the methods for the Salesforce outbound and the inbound services. So this is the basic class that you have to use, and it has all the methods and all the classes inside of it, which basically have these functionality to provide the single email and inbound services and all that kind of stuff. So inside of this particular package, you have this particular class, and you're trying to create an object of that class using the single email message, and this is the way to create an object. Now, when you're sending an email, you need couple things. You need to whom you're sending it, okay? What is the subject of the email, okay? And then you also need the body of the email, right? These are the three things that you need in every email. So first thing is we need to add who is the recipient. So I'm going to go ahead and create an array of the recipient. So I'm going to say sending to, and I'm going to go ahead and use my email address here. Or if you want to send it to yours, I can also do that. Okay, so this is the one, and then let's say I'm going to go ahead and do my email address. Okay, and then so this is our sending to. So now whatever this, so this is the whole package that it's going to go ahead and use. So this is the whole email that I'm going to send. So I'm going to set my whom address, means the recipient address. So in your body, you can write like a template that you want. Let's say you have in your body, you can specify, or you can add like an HTML and all that kind of stuff, and you can unbound it. But why you want to do that? Why don't you just create your, see, the purpose of Apex is you always need to understand this, that if there is something that you can you can do using the out of the box features of the Salesforce, you should always try to use those instead of creating your own and doing it from the scratch. Because if you have a functionality which Salesforce is already providing to you, there's no point of creating another one using coding, because you can always use that. Okay, so yes, you can go ahead and write in your message. You can basically create your own no, this like a template where you're going to send it to multiple people. Let me see if there are the message in this particular, you have a template or something related to that, and that will give you an idea. So if you go back to this class messaging, or no, wait a minute. It's not giving us an option here. Let me see. To always do that, what you can do, you can always go to this API. This is one of the best way to learn something. You always go up to Google, and you basically, that's what I'm trying to tell you how you can figure out. You basically, what you have to do is you go ahead and get an API documentation for this whole thing, and it will tell you what kind of methods are available, and based on those methods, you will see a method. If there is related to template, you can use, let's see if there is one. Okay. This is the best way. If you want to figure out what methods are available, you should always look at the documentation. Okay, so these are the methods. So if you wanted to have a template and you wanted to use that template, let's see if there is a method available like that. If you have okay, so this is there, set HTML body. This is one thing. If you have a template, if you can use a template ID, it might kind of use as an option. So if you have a template ID, you can use a template ID in this particular method. So basically it will send that as a template. Is that what your question was? Yeah, so you can always look at these. So it gives you all the list of email addresses, and see target object ID if using, see here also required if using a template, optional otherwise. So if you are using a template, you can use the template ID and you can set that up. This is the method probably might work for you. Ravi, are you following? Okay. So guys, there might be, because see, there are a lot of things I'm not kind of, because I'm also learning, but I know where to find stuff. So you can always look at the documentation and you can figure out if there is a method available which does something like that that you're looking for. Most of the time, you'll definitely get an answer in another 5 minutes. Okay. So this is how you do it. You already know there's this particular class that you can use to send the email, single email message, because if I'm not here to guide you, there will be like, you know where to find the answer. And that's one of the good signs of being a developer. Like, you know where to go ahead and find your answers if you're stuck at something. Okay. So messaging.single email message. So now we have to go ahead and set the to address, means whom we are sending it to. So we are sending it to this particular person. So I'm going to go ahead and use this here, the name, the to address here. And the next thing you can do here is you wanted to go ahead and send the subject also. So if you want, if let's see if there is a method available for the subject. So you go back here and you see there's a method for the subject. Yes, there is a subject here. So if you wanted to set the subject of this, you can always go ahead and use this method. So how I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and say semail dot of set the subject. This is the email to set the subject if you have, and you can say test email for single email messaging. Okay, so I'm setting up the subject here. If you have a text you want to send it to someone, there's a method available to send the text also. So if you have a method, you can use set plain text body. If you have something like you wanted to send the text version of the email, you just have contents you want to send, you can use this particular method here. So just go ahead and copy this method and you can use it here as email dot offsets plain text body, and here you can say whatever you want to say. Okay, so you're basically going to write hello, how are you, I hope you are enjoying the classes, and then you can say whatever you want to say, thank you. And then this is going to be, and then basically the final thing is you're going to go ahead and send this email. So messaging dot of send email, this is the class that you're going to use, messaging dot of send email. There is a method available, and here you're going to go ahead and send, there are a bunch of, so if somebody can tell me what are all these. Send email. So there is one which takes the list of email messages, Boolean, and then we just want to go ahead and send this whole list here. So the list that I have here is new of single email message constructor, and I'm going to go ahead and send this whole email here. Okay, so what we are doing here is we are trying to send the email. First thing what we did, where is the issue here? String of array set to address. Let's go back if you're doing something here. A list of email addresses to which you're sending the email. Maximum number of email addresses allowed is 100. This argument is only allowed when a template is not used. Okay. We are kind of using it same way. Kanadipika. This is my email address that I'm using. Send the single email. The string of array list of strings sending to new string, and this is the email address that I'm using.
Do we need to use a semicolon in line number 6?
At the end?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's end of the sentence, so we have to use this. I don't.
It has curly braces, right?
No, that should not make a difference. It's the basically telling of an array. So if I have, let's say, sim for all of 21 at gmail.com. See, it's saying that, okay, this particular class has a method which takes a list, and we are kind of definitely creating a list here. Am I doing something wrong here? Oh, We can just do something like this here. It's kind of weird that why is it not working? We're creating a list and it's expecting a list and we're sending the list. Sending. Okay. Oh my god. You know what was the issue? I was using, I think, set to address. The method was set to addresses. But let's look at this. We were using the same one. I don't know why it complained earlier. Because we didn't do anything different. We created a list of string. We added that particular email address here and this thing. And if I just go ahead and get rid of this thing and instead of this add this whole thing here, it should not make a difference. That's what we were doing earlier. So if I go back here, maybe some cloud issue or something. They were probably doing something. I don't know why this, and then we're gonna go ahead here and we give a string here. See, the same thing which was not working earlier is now working. I don't know what we did. Did we change nothing? So now this is what we've done. So now what we have, let me go back again. So I have created an object of the single email message class. And now the first thing that I need to send is to whom I'm sending the email. Second thing that I need to send is what is the subject of the email. And the third thing is what is the message that I want to send. Okay, if you guys can give me your email address, I will try sending it as a list so you also will get an email. Try doing that. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and execute this method by calling this particular class here. So basically which method you're going to call, we're going to go ahead and say email class dot of, what is the method we're going to call? Because it's a static method that you're just going to go ahead and call like this. Now let's go to the Gmail account and see if I got something. Ravi, did you got anything? Okay, you got it. So now you can send it as a list here. Yeah, so it says the same thing, test email from single email messaging. That is the subject of my email. And then it also tells me to whom I'm sending it. So it also goes ahead and to Ravi. And also I got an email. Hello, how are you? I hope you're enjoying the classes. Okay. So this is basically the single email messaging system, and this way you can go ahead and see, these are the things you will definitely use when you're doing programming, because you will be writing these to send an email notification or to create your own stuff which whoever you want to send the email. So you can do that, and this will be helpful during that time. So you have a class available called messaging.single email message. Now the next one we have is this. Any questions on this one, Priyanka and Ravi? If you want to play around with it, I would definitely recommend you to go ahead and take a look at these different API methods here and try to add all those API methods and see what they are doing. Okay, play around with those. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the inbound email service in Salesforce. Now, what is this inbound email service? Inbound email service is basically when we get an email from the external system in the Salesforce. So this Apex class will process the emails, and if there is any attachment or whatever it is, it will process those emails and it will perform the requested operation. So basically what it is going to do is, if you're receiving an email and what it is going to do is, this particular inbound email service will go through those emails, and let's say you wanted to create a record based on every email that you get, or you wanted to create a contact record based on every email you get, you can do that using this inbound email service. So to do this operation, we need to have a class which implements the messaging.inbound email handle interface. So that's an interface, we need to implement this. So first thing is I need to configure an email service. So to do that, I'm going to go back to my setup. I'm going to go back here. I'll go to my setup here, and then I'm going to go to the develop part. And then here I'm going to go ahead and say email services. And here I'm going to go ahead and create a new email service. So now you can see here is email services are automated process that use the Apex class to process the content, headers and attachments of inbound email. Okay, so what you can do is here you have to provide that, okay, this is my email. If there is an email coming from this external system, or if I need to process it this way, or this is the class you need to call. Okay, and then based on that, it will go ahead and process that whole emails. Now we'll get a better understanding once we do this. So we're going to go ahead and set up a new email service here. let me first write the class then, because it's going to ask you for the class here. So let's go ahead. First, let's go ahead and create the class which implements the email messaging. So let's go back and we'll go back here. First thing is we need to go ahead and write the class which implements the inbound email handler. So I'm going to go here and the name of the class is, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say create the accounts, okay, based on the email service. Okay, so create account. Every time a new email comes from the inbound service, so this particular class will get called and this particular class will be responsible for creating an account. Okay, create account email service. Go ahead and click OK. It should be a global class because it will be used. Why it needs to be global? Because since we are using it from an external system, we need to mark it as global. Public means within that Salesforce scope. And if you wanted to do an external systems, then we need the class to be called as global. And then this particular class, as I told you, since you wanted to make sure it's process the emails, we need to implement this interface called messaging.off inbound email handler. So this is the class that will get called, will handle the email. Now in this particular class, I'm going to go ahead and create an object of this particular class is equals to new of so what I'm going to do here is if in the email that is coming from the server, if that particular email, okay, so this particular method, wait a minute, did a mistake here. So we're going to go ahead and create a method called this is the method handle inbound. So this particular interface has a method called handle inbound email, which takes two parameters. If you look at it, it'll give you the whole definition probably. Didn't. Inbound email, comma, messaging dot off inbound envelope. Okay, so this is a particular method that we've created, handle inbound email, and these are the two parameters it takes, the email that is coming, okay, and whatever the envelope is, the inbound envelope. So this is what I'm going to do here is now what I want, whenever an email comes, this particular class will get called, and what this class will going to get, he will have that email object. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and create an instance of this inbound email result, means whatever the email that came. So this is the one. Is equals to new of messaging dot of inbound email result. Now, so from the every email will have couple things. Every email will have a from address, right? Every email will have a body of the email, right? And the next thing is every email will also have the subject, right? And these are the main contents of the email. So what I want to do is I wanted to create an account corresponding to that email. Means, let's say whatever is there in the from address, so there is different part, whatever is there in the from address here, I wanted to use that as the account name. So I'm going to go ahead and say account name. Okay, so this is whatever is there in my from address, whatever the email that is coming. So this particular class will be handling that email. So this particular class will have the access to the email that came from the external system. So in that email, whatever the from address is, okay, whatever the from address is, you put it as a account name. I've created a variable which stores that particular from address. I am creating another variable which is going to store the whatever is the in the body of that email as a description. So whatever is there, I've created another variable to store that within the account description variable that I've created. And whatever is there in the industry or whatever is there in the subject of the email, I'm going to use it as in my one of the fields of the account. Okay, so that is I'm going to do is email dot of subject. Okay, so what I did simply is I have just got those different values, the from name, the body, and the subject, and I've created 3 different variables which have those information. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and create an account object. And so how will I do it? I will say account AC is equals to new of account, and what are the required fields, or what are the fields I wanted to do? Name will be, the name of the account is going to be this. Okay, what other fields are there in this? What other fields are there in the account object? Let's say I have a description. So if I wanted to see what it is in the description, you go to the account object here. Okay, you scroll down here, go to the setup, just go to the sales. I wanted to see what other fields they have. Okay, so we're going to go to the account object, and then I'm going to go ahead and view the fields here and see we have account name. So we just need to look at the field name here. Okay, so the next thing I want is the description. So let's say, is there any field called description? Yes. So I'm going to use this particular field here. And the value for that field is nothing but it is going to come from this variable, and this variable is nothing but the body of that email. And the next thing that I wanted to go ahead and set up is the industry. So let's go ahead and copy this part, and then what I'm going to do is the industry would be nothing but the whatever the subject of the email is, that will be pointed as the industry. So now right now at this point only an account object has been created. There is still nothing in the database yet. So if I wanted to do an insert, what I should do now here, guys, if I wanted to insert this record into the database, what do I need to do here? I've created an account object. At this line number is account has been created, but it has not been inserted. Very good. So I'm going to go ahead and say insert that account. And since it requires, because since it has a return type, you need to have something as a return type, and you can just return now. It doesn't matter. Okay. So now what I've done here is, this is the global create account email service. This particular class implements this interface, which is called as messaging.inbound email handler. And this particular interface, I have a method that I need to implement, which is called as handle inbound email. This is the method that I need to implement because of this particular thing. If I don't implement it, so let's say if I just go ahead and say comment it out. And you can see here that it's going to give you an error message saying must implement. See, always remember, you don't need to remember which method you need to implement. As soon as you implement it, it's going to start giving an error saying it must implement the global interface method, which is called the messaging inbound email result handle inbound email. So this is the whole definition of the method. You just need to use it, and then this is the whole thing that is expecting you to implement. Okay. So the name of the method that is expecting you is handle inbound email. The return type is this. What does it take? It takes these 2 parameters. So that's what it is expecting off from you. So what you're doing is you have provided the definition of the method. Because it's an interface, you need to provide the definition. Now this particular method takes 2 arguments. One is the email, and then another one is the envelope. Okay, we have not used the envelope, so just leave it right there. But in the email, what I'm doing is whatever is there in the from address, I've created a variable called account name, and I've put it into that variable. Whatever is there in the body of the email, I have created a variable to store that. Whatever is there in the subject of the email, I've created a body, and then I've created an account object, and then this is the insert.account. Now, who will call this method? Now that I need to set up now. I need to set up an email service which basically going to call this class whenever there is an email message come. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and going to go to the email service. So this is my email services. Here I'm going to go ahead and set up a new email service, and here I'm going to say test inbound messaging. If you wanted to accept the attachments, you can do that. This has to be active. Okay, and then save a new email address. Specify an email address for this service. The email service processes messages sent to this address. So if somebody is sending the address, somebody is sending an email to this address, what's going to happen is it's going to go ahead and process those. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and say save here. Okay, can you send an email to this address? Let me also try. Right now, if I go back to my account object, the latest one that I have is, let me do it. Let's just see. New this week is nothing. Let's just go ahead and say Gmail. And let's go ahead and create an address. Let me try the other one as well. Okay, that's fine. Go to the setup. Let me send an email using this one also. Okay, so this one it got created. It got created with Deepika Khanna. So we need to use the other email address, the one with the, I'll text you. Let's say Ravi, and see, you can see that the description got populated here. And then industry is basically the from address, whatever we have described in our, and the body would be, so if you go back and look at your class, it will actually do exactly what it did. So it went ahead and whatever does there in the from name. So the from name was the email, my Deepika Khanna was the email address. That was my from address. the from name. So what did it use? It created the account name with that. Next thing is what it do? Next thing was whatever was there in the body, which was basically was the hi, how are you? That was the put it as the description. So if you go here, the description is how are you Salesforce, and then the next one was the industry is nothing but the subject. So subject was, I think, Deepika Khanna. That was the subject, so it picked up as the other one. So if I give you the same address, Ravi, try to send an email to this address, okay? Try to go ahead and send an email here and see if you're able to, if I can see the record that you have created. Priyanka, if you want to do it, you can try that as well. So now what will happen is it will basically, so now you have set up so these are little advanced topics. Now you are able to set up an inbound email and you can process, the system is processing those emails, and based on whatever you have specified in your email, you have specified that, okay, use the name, use this description, use this from, so you can always go ahead and do that. Okay, you can always parse the email. There's a way to parse the email also, okay, besides just these couple fields. If you want to do that as well, where we are going to go ahead and take a look at it. Now if I wanted to see what other methods I can use from this email, you can see in this inbound email what are the methods available. So how I'm going to do that, I'm going to go back here, I'm going to go to my methods of this one particular class. So the first thing is, these are the different methods that are available. Let's see, what are these are the properties. If there is an attachments, if you have any, what you want to do with the attachment, if there is a reply to references, whatever is there, you can basically play around with these properties and you can use them, and you can set your own on account based on whatever you want to do. Okay, so if you have sent me an email, let's see if I'm able to. Did you send me? Okay, might take a couple minutes. Exact email address. Okay. Nope, I didn't get it. Okay, let's just go ahead and look at this. Yeah, because see here we are saying it should work. Ravi, let me go ahead and do it. Let me go ahead and specify your email address here and see if this works. Yes, Priyanka, give me a minute. Try now. Okay, let's see. I don't know, for some reason it's only taking mine. But I've changed the from address to accept yours also, but I don't know why it didn't work. So see, it picked up the description because in the email services, I've said that, okay, accept the emails from everywhere, but maybe just taking it from my account, probably just considering only mine. But if you're using like the other versions, it should accept email from whatever system it is. But ideally, there will be only one system that you're expecting email from, because you wanted to process those emails with this handler. Then if you have another system which is sending the email, you can process it using another email handler. So you might have one from address also, like the same one, and the two addresses also fixed. It might only work for that, but I don't think so. It should work like that because it says that in the email services that accept the emails from everywhere. So there's no restrictions that I put it here, because if you go back and look at this one, here it says configure that accept email from, are you sending it from this address? Yeah, because it should, I don't know why it is not processing, because it did process mine, so I don't understand why. Are you using the exact email address, this one? Because it accepted mine. Okay, now going back to the example, so what we have done is we have created a class, Priyanka, which basically implements this inbound email handler. Now what is the purpose of this inbound email handler is, inbound means the emails that are coming to you, coming to the Salesforce, how you want to process those emails. So let's say I wanted to, if any emails comes to the Salesforce, I wanted to go through those emails and I want to create corresponding accounts with that email. So if there are 5 emails, I want to create five accounts in my Salesforce, or 5 account records in my Salesforce. And how will I do it? I basically go through the email, means I process the email, and what I did is I wanted to get the from address of the email. So my account name will be equal to the from address. My description of the account will be equal to the body of the email, and my subject of that account of the email will be the industry of the account. So these are the 3 variables which stores these 3 information. So name, email, from address, text body, and subject. These are the 3 variables which store that information. Then what I did is I created an account and I passed the name as nothing but whatever I got in the from address. Whatever is the description, I do use this part of the plain text body, and in the industry, I'm passing this variable value. Okay, so here I'm creating an account here by providing these values here, and see, name of the account is a required field, so I have to do it. Otherwise, it is going to give me a DML exception because I don't have a try catch here. So it's going to give me a DML exception. And then what I did is I just inserted this particular account. Since I'm implementing this interface, there is a method that I need to implement, because since I'm implementing this, I have a method that I need to provide the definition, because as per the definition of an interface has only methods which are declared but not defined. That's an interface. So handle inbound email is just a method, and I'm responsible to provide the body for this method. And in this body, I'm explaining how I want my email to get processed. This particular method takes 2 parameters. One is the whole email, whatever is coming, and then there is an envelope. Right now we are not using it, but for further reason or some other way, we can use this object as well. But in this program, we have not used it, and it expects a return type of a result. Means what is the result it is going to throw you back. Right now we don't have any particular address, so we are just returning nothing. Okay, we are returning a null value. Are you following, Priyanka? Okay. So now this is the email services that we have. Now the next thing that we're going to talk about is the batch processes. Now what is this batch process, guys? Now you remember that we talked about these governor limits. Now what were these governor limits? These governor limits were nothing but more of like, since we have limitations on how many records can be processed in a single transaction, that's why we have these governor limits, which say that, okay, you can have only processed 10,000 records in one transaction. So let's say you have hundreds and millions of records, and and those exceeds the governor limits, how you're going to work in those scenarios. So there is a rule called batch apex. Basically, you divide your records in batches. Okay, let's say you have 20,000 records. You create a 10 batch of 500 records or whatever. Let's say you have 50,000 records and you want to process those records. So basically, you create a batches, and in each batch you put some like 500 to 600 records, and then you process them. Okay, now what will happen is all those things will happen at the same time. So you will be able to process those 50 records at once, but in the form of batches. Now, what is this batch apex? Basically, it allows you to define a job into manageable chunks. So basically what is batch apex? Batch apex is nothing but it allows you to define a job that can be divided into chunks, means into like small chunks, and then you can process that separately. Okay, so there each chunk will get processed separately. Okay, allow you to define a job that can be divided into manageable chunks, and where each chunk can be processed separately. For example, if you want to make a field update of all the records in any object, let's say there are more than 50,000 records and that exceeds your governor limit. If you wanted to do an update of all the records in any particular object, which is having the more number of records than the governor limits, then you can use this batch process. Okay, so what will it do? In the batch process, it will fetch all the records that you want to perform the field update or whatever, and it will divide them into batches of 200 or 600 or whatever, based on how many batch you wanted to create and how many, and those batches will be in the governor limit. Okay, and those batches will be processed separately. Okay, now how you can do that? To do something like this, you need to implement another interface called batchable. Okay, any class which you wanted to, which is processing the records which are greater than the governor limits, you wanted to make it you wanted to process them in a batch format, then how you're going to do, you need to implement this batchable interface. And this particular batchable interface, did he left or something? Priyanka, are you able to listen to me? Because you again joined as a web. I don't know what is the difference, but are you able to hear me, Priyanka? Okay, so it allows you to define a job that can be divided into chunks, where each chunk will get processed separately. To do that, you need your class to implement this batchable interface. And to use this, there is something called as this particular interface, database.of batchable, and this batchable interface, which is in the database package. Okay, so you need to implement this interface. Now, since you're implementing this batchable interface, you have three methods that you need to implement. One is the start method. Okay, Priyanka, I don't know why, but you always join as web. Because see, can you see this? See, Ravi joins as without any web. For you, it always comes as web. So there might be an issue with that because you joined as a web. Can you do it a little fast? Because I want to finish this batch processing today. And then tomorrow we're going to go ahead and start the Visualforce, if I don't find any other topics for me to cover. And then we're going to talk about controllers and everything. And then I wanted to give you a project in one of my course that is already available. So go through that project and try to do it yourself. Okay, it's more of like, it's called as the conference management. Huh?
Did you go through this inheritance concept
Which inheritance concept?
or the Apex inheritance from other class to this class? You've been through that, right?
Yeah, we went to inheritance.
Okay, fine.
Didn't you remember?
Yeah, yes, I know, but thing is, I literally forgot that in this class we went or not.
Which class? I didn't remember. Like, okay, getting confused with your Udemy and this class?
Yes.
Yeah, remember we did inheritance and interfaces. Priyanka, do you remember? Remember there was an example I was giving was a dog and a cat and all that, and I think it is on a YouTube video, so you might check it out.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay? And I'll try to, because there was, I'm good guys, it was like couple weddings last week and I was out, and then I got an message from you that your project is over. I don't know where, are you moving anywhere, Ravi?
yeah. I'm in Michigan right now.
Or you're where Priyanka is?
Priyanka is also in Michigan.
Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
still in Michigan.
So did you already got a project?
Not yet. I'm in marketing right now.
So what do you do when you're in marketing? Do they pay you?
No, they don't.
They don't pay nothing, like nothing?
Nothing in the sense we have guest house, so we can stay here.
And then food and everything?
Everything, yeah, they'll pay
But then they won't give you like movie tickets and all that kind of stuff.
us. They do actually. They give us $300 monthly.
Oh, remember when I started, I did the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got it. But then my aunt used to live here in Texas, so she took me with her. But I didn't got to stay with the apartment people. But they put you like 5 people in one whole apartment, and I was like, you can't study in that. So I used to always go to those. They used to have the training centers, so I used to go and study there, and they used to provide those noodles, top ramen noodles. I just used to cook those all the time. So I have gone through that. So I remember that. But that was fun time.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay. So going back to this batch. So Priyanka, make sure you never join as web, okay? You always do that. The next thing is we were talking about this batchable interface, and this batchable interface, what it does is basically the whole purpose here is not to exceed the governor limits, because once you exceed the governor limits, it's going to give you an exception. So what they do is, if let's say you have 50,000 records, okay, and the governor limits is basically saying you cannot process more than 10,000 records in one transaction. Okay, that is what the governor limits is saying. Okay, so what you're going to do is, let's say you're going to create, let's say 50 batches, or we can say you can create about 10 batches, okay, and which is basically will process 1,000 record, okay, and then it is basically nothing but no, it'll be 50 batches of 1,000. Let's do that. 50 batches of 1,000, or we can say up to 10,000. So we can say 10 batches of 10,000 or 5 batches of 10,000. So basically it will cover the whole 50,000 records, and it is not going to exceed your limit. So what this class has to do, this class has to implement this batchable interface, and in this interface it comes with 3 methods. It is a method called start, execute, and finish. Okay, these are the 3 methods you have. Start is the method that will get called whenever you start the batch process. Execute is the whole execution that you want to do, and finish is basically once the batch process has finished, what do you want to do? So let's say you wanted to notify people, you want to send email notifications, you can write those in the finish method, which is basically will run after the batch processing has been finished. So start method is automatically called at the beginning of this Apex job. So this is like a job, and at the beginning of this job, it's going to call the start method. Now, what the purpose of this method is, this method will collect the record of those objects on which you want to perform the operation. So let's say you wanted to go through the account objects, account object records. So it goes through those and it will collect those records. Okay. And then these records will be divided into the tasks, and then it will divide it into those batches, and then it will pass it to the execute method. Okay. So this purpose of the start method is basically it will go through all the records that you want to perform the operation on, and it will divide those into the into those batches, and then it will go give those to the execute. It will divide those into subtasks and passes those to the execute method. Now the execute method will perform the operation which you want to perform. Let's say you wanted to update the description of all the records. Then basically it is what it is going to do. It is going to those execute method will update the description of each of those records, and then you will, once that processing has been done, for each record, not for every record, it is going to call these three. Start method will be called for all the records, then execute will be running, and then once all the batches have been processed, once all the records have been processed, then the finish method will get called. Okay, so then this is the how it will get called. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and write a class which implements this batchable interface, which will go through the account object. And what will it do is basically it will go through all list of this account object. Let me go through the contact object. Let's say, let's go through the contacts. It will go through the whole list of contacts if you have any. Okay, it will go through the list of contacts. We have approximately 20. Okay, so it has all these, and it'll go through those, and basically what it is going to do is it is going to go through and add, let's say, star asterisk sign at the end of it. Let's say this is what we want to do. Okay, so we will go back here.
Hey Deepika.
Yes, sir.
Actually, regarding that batch file processing, I have a
Mm-hmm.
doubt. Like, do we need to set all the records? If we suppose we have 1 lakh records, then how will we divide that in chunks? Like, will we divide that as 10,000 to 10, or is that like that?
No, so what you can do is, let's say you have only, let's say you only wanted to have the records. You can write a query which will only fetch the records that you want to process.
So if you want all the records,
then you just get the whole account objects, like whole list of objects. Then you get, like, you basically you can whatever objects you need, you can put it into a query. Let's say you just want the name from the account which belong to industry this. If you just say select the name from the account, it is basically going to select everything. So based on how many records you want, you modify your query.
and
So
if
then
you're dividing that into the chunks, do we have a limit in the dividing? Like, we'll set as suppose we have 500 records as of now, and we are setting a method or something. So we have divided that 500 into 10 pieces, okay? And later on it will increase to 500 to 1000. Then
you're still in the limit, right?
still in the limit, but I'm just talking about the example. Let's suppose it's 50,000 or 1 lakh then.
See, it will automatically take care of how many batches to create, or if you wanted to specify that, okay, run these in these many batches, it will do that. Let's go through this. Let's go through the example and see what it does. Okay, and then we will see if you still have questions. So I got what you're saying. Like, okay, once you set the batches, each batch contains 100 records, and let's say more accounts got created in the meantime, and then you're running the batch process, and basically it does not capture all. Is that something related to that you're saying? Okay, so we'll see. So now here I'm going to go ahead and create this class, and the name of the class, since I told you it has to implement this batchable interface, so I'm going to create a class called batch account update. And let's say contact update. So in this, it will implement that is available in this package, database.batchable. So this is my query that I'm going to go ahead and create, and my query is the query locator. The first method that I need to implement is the start method. It takes the database.batchable thing. Okay, so this is my start method. In the start method, it will be responsible to capture what is the query that you want to run. Here you are going to specify query is equals to select the ID, comma name from the account object. Sorry, from the contact object. Because we are going to go ahead and do this one. Okay, this is my query, and let's go through what are the fields are there in this account contact object. We go ahead here and we say view object. Just the account name. I'll just do it from the name from the contact. Okay, and then next thing is it is going to go ahead and return you this whole thing. It is going to give you, this is the query that it needs to focus on. So these are the records. So it might be 20 records, this query might give you 100 records or whatever. Okay, and the next one is we have the next method that we need to implement is the execute, and then we have is the finish method. So this particular, what you wanted to do with all the records. Okay, so now this particular method gets the same patchable context. Okay, and it also gets a list of all the contact. Okay, so whatever is there, I'm going to go through those lists of the contacts because this query is going to return you all the contacts. So basically it is expecting you to be for a contact object, and then it goes through those. Scope is going to have the list of the contacts. So now I'm going to go through the contact list. Okay, and I'm going to say contact C, and I'm going to go through, this is, remember that was a for loop, the enhanced for loop that we created. So this is that loop here, and this loop is going to go through the list of the contacts. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to say whatever is there in the name part, you go ahead and append the name with, let's say, these characters. Okay, these are the, so I'm going to process those records, and I wanted to go ahead and add these 3 asterisk signs with each name. Okay, and then I wanted to go ahead and update the scope. Okay, and wanted to go ahead and update the scope. So every time it's going to go ahead and every time what will happen is it goes through this loop, it'll add the C dot of name to it, and then it's going to go ahead and update the whole scope. So it is basically going to change the name with these asterisk signs. Okay, and then we have the last method that we need to do is the finish method. So we're going to go ahead and say global void finish here, and then it is going to go ahead and say database dot of batchable, the same thing, the context, batchable context. It takes the same parameter. This is basically the definition. You can't change it because this is what it is expecting you to give. And here right now I'm not providing anything, so we can just say, let's say, how does the finish method gets called. If I wanted to write a system dot of debug, and I can say finish, you always finish method called. Okay, you can write something like this here. Here I can say system.of_debug execute method got called. And the next one that we have is the start method got called. I just want to see how does this whole thing get called. Okay, so this was the, now if I want to run this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and call this method here. Is there a error going on here? Okay. Oh.
Press insert.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking for insert. Where the hell is insert right now? Where does insert is there? Top right.
Check for this function keys. It should be you have to press the function key.
I know there is an insert button, but I don't know where it is. Delete, backspace. Sometimes things are right in front of you, you can't figure it out. I got it. Okay, where do I was? Batch contact update is the name of the class that we have. We made it as a global, still is giving us an error. A global class. Okay. Void. Oh. Field is not writable. Really? Oh, I know what it is. Let's just get the first name. That is probably going to be writable. Just use the email. Okay, so now if I wanted to go ahead and update this one, we're going to say batch account update b is equals to new of this one, and database dot of execute the batch, and then we're going to go ahead and provide this b here and see what happens. So finish method got called. Okay, that's the only thing, and it didn't go through the finish method call. Let's see what happened with the contacts. So if I go back here and if I went to the contacts, go to the all contacts, do you see star got appended here? No. Till the setup. Let's do it something like this. Oh, still didn't do anything. Let me see. From contact. We didn't even call this method. Start method, BC. Let's just change it to account. Let's see if it does anything with the account object. Okay, it did that. Okay, it didn't give you the return statements, but it did do this. It added those asterisk signs at the end of all these things here. Okay, so it basically went through and it created these. It went through all the records, and let me see how many batches got created. If you wanted to define like how many batches you want to create of how many records, you can do that. So you can go ahead and change the batch size. So first let's go through the method one more time here. So what I did in this one, I went through all these okay. So if you wanted, first thing is we went through all these names, ID and name from the account object. Okay, it went through the list of those. It got that's a query. You call that particular query and you set it up here in the query locator. Okay. Next thing is, since these are the three methods that get executed, now what happens in these three methods is, wait a minute. So you went through the list of the account object, and then this is the start method which basically set up the query. Then you go through the list of those account objects, okay, and then you change the name of those account and you append the name with the asterisk sign, okay, and then you run the update query, which basically calls this update the list of the records. And then you have a finish method which gets called whenever the whole batch process finishes. Now let's say you wanted to make sure that the batch processes runs in bunches of 10, or let's say you cannot be more than 1200. So there is a method that you can use which is called as database.execute batch. Here you provide which class you want to run, and also you wanted to run how many records you want. Let's say I only want 5 records for every let's say this is the one. whole thing, and then you want it to run in the batches of 5 here. Okay, so if you wanted to do something like that, let's say there are multiple records, but it should not be more than 200. There's a limit here that you can set up. So here you can specify that how many records should be there in each batch. Okay, let's see what it does. It probably now will have 6 instead of, see, now you have 6 because 3 from the earlier one and 3 from now. So, okay, so if you want to do that, this is the one, and here I wanted to show you where I can it's like where I can show how many batches ran, and there is a way to do that. There was a link here to go to the batch earlier. Let's see if the other thing showed us. Okay, so here you can see. I don't know why didn't it show when we do the debug. Did it show you? See, it only shows you one, but if I go back here. Okay, so if you remember, here you will see which method got called when. So this is the one, batch contact update. Then it goes ahead and call the execute method. So this is the one, execute method got called. I think it called the finish earlier. If something finishes, it went ahead and called that one. And then it has added those asterisk signs here. So now what they say is that you can have up to like 200 batches maximum. The batch size can be about 200. If you want to change it, there's a limit on, you can't, that is controlled by the Salesforce, that how you cannot add it yourself. Now going back to your question, Ravi, I think you will not be able to change it. I think by default they take care of how many records and how many batches to create. So they wanted to make sure that, okay, that's it, because see, if you tell ahead of time, because you know the count of the records, you don't do the calculation, let Salesforce do it for you. So Salesforce will handle it. If let's say there are 10,000 records, and let's say there are 50,000 records and the governor limit is 10,000, it will create 5 batches of 10,000 records and it will process them. So it will do it in such a way that it will go ahead and do the calculations, but it will do it in batches. So it will not exceed the governor limits. That's what I think is gonna happen. You can have the batch size to be set it to 10, but I don't know where to show you that it did this way, because there's this method and it tells you the batch size should be 10 here. So if you say here, then if you go ahead and look at the definition, it will tell you this method is basically for the batch size. So if I go back here, batchable, and here is the batch size. So this is the batch size. So it takes about those how many batch size you want. Then it tells you about, okay, you can create 5, you can create 10 batches, whatever the size of the batch should be. So you can specify here in this method, but I don't see it in the Salesforce where it basically tells you that, okay, I created these batches and these are the limit of numbers. So that's what I was trying to figure out, if there is a way that I can show you. But this, it did process in the batches format. So if there was, let's say there were thousands and multiple which exceeded that, it will go ahead and do it in the batches.
So if we have 1 lakh records, so
Yeah.
we can pick the size of the records. So it comes, the size is equals to 1 lakh, and we can divide it, right? We can divide the.
You can say the batch size. See here, you can say the batch size. See here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can specify here the batch size. So if let's say there are 1 lakh, you can say that each batch should have about 10, less than 10,000. So it will create batches according to that. Okay, and if you don't provide anything, it will automatically do it in the way he thinks. If you're not providing it externally, it will basically do it in his own way. It will create the batch and batch sizes where what he thinks is optimized or whatever it is, but otherwise it will do it in your way. Are you getting? Yeah, so here if you don't provide it, see, if you want to specify yourself, then you can just use this one. If you want to specify your own size, then you can use this parameter, because it has two, basically it has two versions of the same method. One is with just telling you that, okay, this is the batch I want to run it, and it will take care of how to run it, and then otherwise if you wanted to provide the batch size, it is going to go ahead and run the batch size. Okay, if you want to explicitly specify how many records you want to run. Got it?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so what was the next thing I was supposed to cover? Let me see. Give me 2 minutes and drink water. Okay guys, so I think pretty much I covered most of the topics related to, I have to create this scheduling one. I'll try to do that probably next time, but I wanted to start Visualforce today. So what my plan for here is, I'm going to cover Visualforce. I think it'll take tomorrow and probably another 1 week, and then there's going to be RESTful web services. Okay, and then after that, you need to remember there is a course. Did I share with you Apex REST Web Services course? I think I did. So there is a project in that course. Go through that project and try to finish it. That was the main project, which will have controllers, REST web services, everything in it. Okay, so you will probably, we have covered each and every topic in its own bits and pieces. So with that project, you will basically going to get an end-to-end how the thing works. Like we will be creating your own application, then we will have controllers, then we're going to have some controller extensions, all those things in that single project. So I will recommend you to go through that and try to do the project along with the class. Okay. So right now what we're doing is we have covered inheritance, we covered a very small topic in our own way. Now we need to see how to put everything together. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start Visualforce. Do you have any questions so far on what we covered today? From inbound email messaging service to outbound email messaging service to create the batch processing, to write to these sending emails, etc. Okay. Any questions on that so far? Priyanka, are you following? Okay, good. So next thing is we're going to go ahead and talk about the Visualforce. Now, what is this Visualforce? Now, do you know so this whole system, this whole UI, this is called as a model view controller. Now, Ravi, can you explain me what is model view controller?
I exactly don't know.
Model view controller. Okay. So you know how the whole thing works? Like you have a UI, what happens at the back? How does the whole thing works? Do you know that, Ravi?
Yes, yes.
Can you explain?
Okay. So normally, first we have to write a Visual Force page, and we have to give the controller. That's all. That's all UI part. So do you want me to explain like that? Like, what is the relation between UI? I mean, Visual Force and the Apex class?
Yeah, like the whole thing, like how the whole function works.
Okay. So, the in Visual Force page, so we give the controller, and the controller is nothing but the class, and whatever we use in the Visual Force page, we get that from the controller. We can store that value. We can call. I mean, we can call the methods and all. We can. For the buttons and whatever the checkbox and whatever we have that in Visual Force page, the front end. So for everything, we can call the methods what we write in the class.
The controller class,
Controller class. Oh, yeah, controller class.
or it can be any other class, right? From the controller, you're calling another class.
Another class. We can do that, and we can use the extensions as well.
Hmm.
And I think we can use the jQuery's scripting, right? Java scripting
That is
on
on the
jQuery.
Visualforce.
Visual Force, yeah. It's in Visual Force, the scripting, all right.
Hmm.
Yes, we
That's
can
all
use Visual
UI.
Force.
You can't use that in like code. You can only use it on the UI, user interface.
Yeah. Oh, so in the Visual Force page we can use, right?
That's the UI, right?
Yes.
So it's like like it's a scripting language which is basically going to be interpreted by the browser, right? Like just in like in HTML, if you've worked with HTML, you write some tags. You say, see if I, it's a very simple example. So here, let's say we created a class, and in that class I say HTML. I start the class here, HTML, and I close this HTML tag here. And then inside that I have a body tag. Let's say these are the different tags in HTML. Okay, if it's a very simple, HTML is a very simple language to learn. So you have HTML, you have body tags. Here you specify the background color. Let's say there is a attribute to set up the background color, and you say here pink or yellow, whatever the color you want to do it. And then here inside of those you say this is the code that you're writing. Okay, then it says Deepika Khanna, and then it'll say here these are the different tags that are available. Okay, H1, then you have H2, you can see Deepika. Okay, so you have these, and these are different tags. So now let's go ahead and let me save this file here on the desktop. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this file on the desktop, and I'm going to just save it as a test.html. Okay, and then I'd go ahead and do this. Now, if I go back and run this file in my browser, I have written this code with all the tags and everything, okay? But when I run this thing on the browser, what's going to happen is it's going to give me a different, it's going to interpret what I wrote, okay? Browser knows what HTML is and what is the purpose of each of the tags. So what will happen is it was going to go through that and it was going to interpret the whole thing. Now I am looking for my test.html. Do you see anyone here? You see it's here. So see, it gives you completely, I wrote like background color yellow, it interpreted and gave me a yellow color. I wrote it as a header tag to be in this form, then they have a h2, the peacock. So this is the, so browser knows what is the meaning of the each and every tag. Okay. So what is this basically? The Visual Force is also a kind of scripting language, which basically nothing but it has some tags in it. Okay. And what is the purpose of writing the Visual Force? Visual Force is for the user interface. See, as a human beings, no one knows, everyone doesn't know how to program. Okay. The whole purpose of this is like you went ahead on the website and you kind of entered your information. How this thing works is you have a form, you went to a website, okay, you went to a chase.com or whatever, you entered a form here, you provided your first name, you provided your last name, and you hit the submit button, right? There is always a sign up or something. So when you hit the submit button, there is the logic that gets called, okay, and that we can call it as a controller. Okay, so that logic is written in Apex. So we know how to write Apex classes. We have talked about it. So when you click on the button, what do you want to do? That is where you write in your Apex programming language. Okay, and in that controller, you can say, okay, say insert the record into the database, or you update something on the database, or call something else. So that is your controller. That is your Apex class. On the UI, let's say you want a text box, you want a checkbox, you wanted, so that is for the visual per person. That is for the every human being to see a form. He knows, okay, I have to hit the submit button, but they don't know what is going ahead after you hit the submit button. That is something the controller will do it. So the UI is written in the language called Visual Force. So Visual Force is a component-based user interface for the Force.com platform. So component-based means everything is components. Okay, you basically, what the components is, let's say you went ahead and let me go ahead, probably you might have seen an app. Okay, let's say you talked about an app. This is your mobile phone. In a mobile phone, it'll ask you, this is a text field, this is two buttons here. Okay, then let's say there is a link. So these are different components. This is one component, this is one component, this is one component. They're totally individual components, and you have put together and you have made an app with that. So similarly, Visual Force is also a component based. So this text field you can use in another app. Okay, so it's a components based. You can use the same code here in another app. Okay, you can use this checkbox in another app. You can use a button in another app. So it's a components being, it is divided into different components. And the purpose of the Visual Force is basically to build the user interface, and it is basically a tag-based markup language similar to HTML. So just like in HTML, you have these H1 tags, you have this body tag, etc. Similarly, in Visual Force also you have tags. Okay. Now, what are we going to go ahead and do? Before you start working with the Visual Force, the developer mode should be enabled in your Salesforce. Now, how you can enable the developer mode? There is always you can go to this developer my settings here, and under the personal, if you go down, there is an advanced user settings, or I think advanced user details probably. And here, if you scroll down, there is a place called development mode. Okay, this has to be checked on. Now, what is the purpose of this development mode? Let's say I wanted to create a Visual Force page. If I just do something like NA330 Salesforce Control V and I say hello page, now it is going to go ahead and give me an error saying, okay, this particular, I think this is the one I have to use. Apex slash of hello. Let's say this is the page I wanted to create. Okay, now this is a Visual Force error that, okay, this page does not exist. but it does not tell me to create one because my development mode is not enabled. So what I need to do here is I need to go ahead and enable the development mode here by going down and checking this development mode box and then keep going ahead and coming here and saying, hit the save button. So now this my development mode is enabled. Now if this time if I hit this, it will tell me the page does not exist, but it also gives me an editor to create my page hello. And this is the way that you can create your hello page. So if you scroll down, this is the editor, and you can just increase the size of the editor by moving up here, and you can write whatever thing you want to write in here, and you can write those. Okay, so you just clicked on that one. So this is your file here. So now this is the page this is my hello page here. So this is your new page hello. If whatever you change here, let's say whatever you write in here, you save it, it's going to update it right here. So this is basically, you see here you're writing all this Apex page. Similarly, like in HTML, you gave the first tag as an HTML. Here everything starts with Apex page. Okay. And then in this, you can use HTML tags as well. So if you guys, do you have worked with HTML before? Have you written any HTML programming before? Have you done it? Priyanka, have you worked with HTML before? Guys, do you ever worked with HTML before? Okay, a little bit. So you know what HTML. That little bit is, that's all I want, little bit. I don't want you to be a master here. Okay, so here, so this is like similar, just know the concept here. So you have tags which have some meaning in them, and then Visualforce gets, those tags get interpreted in whatever, in a way. So here it only displays this particular line here, congratulations, and whatever you've written in here, and this is what it's going to display. These things that you see here, these are comments. These are only for the developer purpose, developer to know what he's doing, or to make some comments for another developer to take a look at it, or those are not part of your program. Okay, those are just for a developer to see what's going on, and just to add him, to give him more insight on what he's doing or other person is doing. Okay, so first thing is we have to enable the development mode. Once you enable the development mode, you're going to go ahead and see, let's say if I go back here and I get rid of all this thing here and I just say H1 or whatever, and then I say hello Deepika. So this is one of the tag that I have here, so that's going to give me the first, this is going to just print hello Deepika here. Okay, so I've used the Apex here. This is the first thing that you need. Everything starts with Apex page here. Okay, and then the next thing is, if you wanted to start, if you want to create pages like this, or you can go to the setup here and you can go ahead and look for Visualforce, and you can create the pages from here as well. Okay, so you can go ahead and create new pages here too. Okay, so you can go ahead and create a page here, and you can name the page, you can save the page, and you can write the code here, whatever you want to do it. Okay, and then let's say you wanted to write a page called Deepika, and this is the name of the page, and it's going to go ahead and say, if you wanted to make it available for mobile and lightning, you can go ahead and click on this checkbox, etc. And then if you go ahead and do it, hit the save button, and now if you go ahead and go to your this thing, and you call it Deepika here, it's going to go ahead and call the same page, and it's going to say, congratulations, this is your new page. Okay, so this is what this are two ways of creating to create your Visualforce. Now the next thing you have is the attributes. Now what are attributes? Attributes are nothing but they are going to provide extra information about that particular tag. So just like you have created you've created an HTML, and this BG color is nothing but an attribute of this body tag. Okay, attribute is basically to provide more information. So similarly, this is Apex page is there, and then you went ahead and this is an attribute called sidebar. Okay, and the value for the attribute can be true or false. So what is the sidebar? Sidebar is this thing. Right now you're able to see the sidebar. Let's, by default it is true. If you go ahead and say, I don't want to see the sidebar, then it does not show you the sidebar. It takes away the sidebar for you. So this is the code that controls this page. Okay, so if you make changes to it, and you save it, you have to hit the save button. This is the save button. Okay, if you wanted to increase the size, you click on it, and basically you increase the size here. You click on this, and you increase it a little bit here, so people can able to see it. Okay, and then you have added this attribute called sidebar, which is an attribute. By default, its value is saved. Is false, and once you remove it, and this is going to go ahead and set it to false, it's going to go ahead and get rid of the header. Now next thing is, if you want to show the header, this is the header portion, this is the sidebar, this is the header. Right now the header portion is, let me see, the header portion is available. Right now you can see all this. Now if you wanted to get rid of it, what are the values you have? You have true or false. By default it's true. You set it up to false. You hit the save button. The header will also go, and it will only, this particular page will only be available. Okay, so these are nothing but the what you call them as the attributes of the Apex page here. Okay, you put the sidebar as false, and then you go ahead and do the other thing as false. So these are the two different things. Now if you wanted to see more attributes, you can click on here, click the control button, and if you say show, it will go ahead and show you show chat. If there is a chat available, it will go ahead and get rid of it. Okay, quick action bar, if you want to get rid of it, control, all these are the different attributes for the Apex page. Okay, we'll talk about the controller one later. Now, next thing that you have is, if you wanted to go ahead and talk about more components here. So we have got rid of the sidebar. So let's just go ahead and get rid of this thing. So there's another, you just need to remember a couple of tags, okay? And if you wanted to get the whole list of tags, you can always Google it here, and you can say Visualforce tags. And you go through each of the tags here, and it'll tell you what the purpose of the tags is, what they can do, and you should play around with these and get an idea. Okay, so these are different tags that are available. If you want to change the family, we want to make it as a PDF file, there's a tag available, there's an attribute available. So these are different tags, and you can go ahead and browse through the whole list here. Okay, page, blog, etc., etc. So these are the list of the tags. Now the next thing is, so let's say I'm coming back to the page block. Page block is nothing but it's like a tag to have different sections, to have a different blocks of section. So right now you see this page, you have added this page. Every time you need to start with this. If you get rid of this first line, it's going to give you an error. Okay, it's going to give you, and if there is an error, it's going to go ahead and say here. And if you just go ahead and remove this one also, it's going to give you an error that there should be an Apex page looking is required and must be the outermost tag in the markup. So this should be, the Apex page should be there. That's a required tag. Okay. Now if you wanted to have a block, so there is a tag available to create a block. Okay, so that is called as Apex. We call it as page block. Okay, now this is the block here. Okay, so you basically it's going to go ahead, and then there it also has an attribute called title. And here you can say the title is first block. So what it has done here, it has basically created this first block for you, and then it has the side, it does not have the sidebar because you have set the attribute to false. You have created a page block. Similarly, you can create another page block also. So if you wanted to go ahead and create a second one, here you can go ahead and create a second one, and you can say second block. Okay, and then instead of first block, let's say you wanted to have a section here, or let's say you wanted to have some like another thing here. So here you can say, I'm going to have in this page block, I'm going to go ahead and add a section. Okay, and here if you want to do it, here you can go ahead and write whatever you want. Let's say the title of this is my first block section. So this is my first thing here, and it's going to go ahead and say this, and then here and say hello, how are you? Okay, so this is going to be the first page block here. So this is this one, then this is the next thing. Now similarly, you can add the sections in the second block as well. Okay, so you're going to have another section here, and you can say this is the second one, and this is the third one. Okay, and you can say here second, and here you can say third. So these are the Once you hit the save button, it's going to give you the whole view of this page. It's basically created this two sections for you. First block, then you have my first block, and then you have the content here. Then you've created a second block, and then you have two different sections in that block. Okay, so this is another tag that you probably will use a lot. Okay, now here this is called as the page block and the page block section. You just need to remember these sometimes, but you don't have to memorize all of it. You can always look back and look at the Visualforce tags thing there. Okay,
Just make that the header and sidebar false, and how does it look? And the style sheet also.
you want to do this one?
Yeah. Okay. And if you make style sheet true, then
But you need to have some style sheet. Right now it is true, so that's why it's taking the standard style sheet. If you want to make them false, so it's going to be this one. Okay, now what are these style sheets? These are nothing but the CSS files. You probably Salesforce has already uploaded a couple of the CSS files. You can always upload your own. Okay, and you can have a different look and feel. So the standard style sheet are basically for the look and feel of, like, it has how the header should be, how the text should be, what color of the text should be, what size of the text should be, what should be the body, what should be the text size of the header tag, all those kind of things. So you have specified here in the style sheets, and you can upload your own style sheets, and then you can say in this particular file that I want to use my own style sheets. Okay, so you can always use your
sure.
custom ones. Huh?
Where should we upload that? Is that in static resource?
Yes, that's in the static resources. So if you go up
And
here,
whatever we need, we have to upload in static resource.
yeah, so you first upload it here, whatever you wanted to upload it. Let's say there's I think I have one. You can upload a bootstrap. I have a bootstrap, I think probably long back I might have one, and you can download it. I might have one, I'm not sure. So you load it, and then here you just provide the reference of that, and then it'll automatically. So if let's say in that bootstrap you have some classes with the name, you can always use those in this after you define that, okay, use this particular style sheet. Okay, you can always go ahead and do that.
You have to call that by its name.
Yeah, so when you go ahead and do the static resource, and here if I say, let's say, I have it somewhere, I don't remember it, but let me find out. I don't remember where is it, but there was some. So you upload it there, and then you basically call whatever the name that you have. Public. I'm just uploading some shit so that you can go ahead and save it. So MI attempt, so this is going to be this is what you can use. Either if you have a namespace prefix, you can always specify, let's say there are a couple of DPA files. So namespace is basically like a package name, and in this package, this file. So you can use that one as well. This is, you can upload it here, and you can use those in here. Is that what your question was, Ravi?
So how would you call that? Like,
You basically go ahead and say, there's a tag here to use that. using style. Call this Apex style sheet here, and then you basically give the name of that or whatever the resources is, and you provide the link here. So you can say under these resources, whatever the name of the file is. You basically use resource dot of the name of the file is. Okay, so this is a tag that you can use, and in that Apex style sheet. Is that what your question is?
Yes.
So now here you can use it, Apex style sheet, and you can go ahead and provide the name.
Before the resource and exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Do we use
Resource and dollar sign, sorry.
Why is that dollar sign actually?
That's like, that is what Visualforce has been written like. So if you go and write jQuery, there will be a dollar sign too. So they have their standard just to make sure that this is something of because of what they have created. So they kind of market it with dollars just to represent that they are standard stuff. Okay, so that is like nomenclature. And if you're creating of your own, you can have your own names. But this is if you're using a standard stuff, they have dollar signs with it. Just like when you have to display username, you have a dollar sign. This is called as an expression. Okay, this is called as an expression. So this expression will be evaluated at the runtime, or whenever you run the program, this expression will be evaluated. So if there is an expression, generally in any programming language or any scripting language, they use this exclamation mark. I don't know what is the purpose, but they use it. Okay, and they have now they have dollar sign also to represent that, okay, this is something standard they have created and they're using it. Okay, and you have to use this tag inside of the Apex page. Okay, so not outside of this. Apex page should be the first one, and then you have Apex style sheet and the name of the file that you have already uploaded under a static resource. Okay, got it?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So going back to what we were discussing about the section. So we have got rid of those style sheets and everything. That's why we didn't. Okay. Now, there are a couple of like global variables. Now, what are the global variables? Global variables, let's say every time you might need these variables for your coding purpose. Let's say username, if you wanted to get the username, how you can get it. So there are some global variables or some objects that are already given to you. For example, I want to display the first name of the user who is logged in or last name of the user. You can always go ahead and let me go ahead and remove this whole junk here. Get rid of the sidebar. And here you can say if you wanted to this might be a question come also that, okay, how to get the username. So in user is the only object that you have to use dollar sign as well. Okay, user dot of first name. Let's say if you want to display account name, then you don't have to display dollar as well. You can just say account dot of name. But since it's a user, you need to use first name. Here I can say first name of the lot. Then if you wanted to use the break tag, you can always go ahead and feel free to use the BR tag, that is to give a new line. Last name, if you wanted to display, then you can go ahead and display the last name. So this user is a global variable that is available. So force.com gives you information about the logged in user variable by calling something called as a user. Okay, and you can access the fields of this user variable like any other. By using this dot operator, you can go ahead and call the first name, last name, whatever the field is available under the user object, you can go ahead and call it. Okay, so by using, if you wanted to use display the user last name, you can always go ahead and say user dot of last name. Okay, and then here you go ahead and give the break tags. So it gives you the last name. If you want to display the username, then you can go ahead and say exclamation mark, and you have to use the dollar sign. and you can say user dot of username. Okay, so then it's going to give you the username as well. Okay, so it gives you information about the username. Now let's say you wanted to have display all together in one line, so you can say thank you, and if you want to put together in one line, you can always go ahead and say exclamation mark dollar user dot of first name. Okay, first name, use the AND operator here. You wanted to add the space in between, so you have and here, and then you specify the last name, so you can say user dot of last name. Okay, and this is case insensitive, so you don't have to worry about having in this way. You can always write in all small letters or cursor letter or whatever. Okay, so basically it is just like concatenation. Remember in Apex we have add the plus sign and then we add the variable whichever value you want to show. So basically this is, you just replace the plus with the AND operator here. Okay, so similarly most of the time you want to display, let's say you want to display date, you want to display the time. So there are certain functions that are available to display those kind of things. Okay, so if let's say I wanted to calculate today's date, so I can always go ahead and I can first, let me write a break here so that you don't get confused. Okay, this BR is an HTML tag. So now you basically, if you want to display today's date, so what is today's date? You can always go ahead and there is a variable available to calculate, or a function available to calculate. And now here you just, since it's an expression, then only you need to use exclamation mark. And to calculate today's date, there is a method available. You don't have to use $ everywhere. $ is basically used when you're talking about a user. Like then only most of the time they use $. So here it gives you the today's date, whatever the date is, it's basically whatever in this particular format. Okay, and let's say if you want to calculate what is the date from today or next week, or just you wanted to capture only the year of today's date, then there is a function available to do that as well. So if you wanted to do a break here, very simple. I'm just going to walk you through some of the tags that I normally use whenever we're creating the Visualforce page. So here we can say the year. Oh, it's 12:10. Oh, I just didn't realize. Okay, we can. I didn't realize that. Okay, so we can just wrap it up, and we can talk about it rest of it tomorrow, if that's okay. And we'll meet you at same time tomorrow, 10 to 12. I just forgot. I just didn't look at the watch. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you. And we'll continue from here from tomorrow. Okay. Okay, Ravi. I'm sorry. We'll just go ahead and continue from tomorrow. Bye.